Okay. 6:05, we're ready to go. Very good. Good evening, everyone. We're beginning our webinar now. Alderman Brian Hopkins, welcome. Delighted to have you here. Let me just begin by stating the purpose of this meeting. Two purposes of this meeting, actually. The first purpose, it's an introduction. The second purpose, it's an invitation. It's an introduction to the development team, Fern Hill, in partnership with the Moody Church, their community relations staff, and their design team. The players in this game may be new to a lot of you. So before we embark on this project development, I just wanted the neighborhood and the stakeholders to have an opportunity to get to know them and for them to introduce themselves, talk about who they are, where they came from, what their intentions are, and just, basically an introduction. The invitation is to have the people who are on this call right now, and there's almost 200 of you, in addition to many others who have expressed interest since the rumors of a possible project have been percolating now for the past couple of months. This is an invitation to the neighborhood to participate actively in an interactive process. We're going to do some things that personally I've never done before as an alderman. We're going to break some new ground. This is going to be the most interactive community review process for any development proposal in the city of Chicago. And I say that based on some of the things that you're going to hear tonight, some of the ways that we're going to allow you to really get your hands on what we are trying to accomplish here. This is a blank canvas right now as we start. You are all invited to pick up a paintbrush. Let's decide together what we want to happen here in conjunction with Moody Church and Fern Hill Development. I'm very excited about this. The outcome is uncertain, and that's the standard caveat that I add at the beginning of any community review process for a proposed development. There is no done deal. There is no decision that has been foremade or preordained. This development will rise or fall based on the response from the neighborhood and based on the response from the community stakeholders. That's you. So it's up to the development team to have that relationship with you, to engage in that robust interaction that will hopefully lead to something that the neighborhood can accept. If it does, great. If it doesn't, that's a possibility as well. So there's something actually at stake here for all of us. And as we embark on this journey, which will be several months, if not longer, we're not going to rush this. That's what the stakes are right now. So the invitation is for you to roll up your sleeves, get involved in this, be a part of it, and be prepared for a highly interactive process. Now, having said that, since tonight is just an introduction, there's no proposal for you to respond to. We're not there yet. We will be at some point, but we're not there yet. So there won't be anything that you can respond to with feedback or criticism or comments. However, having said that, if you do have questions, if there's something that you want to discuss with me as we start off, by all means, send me an email or call my office tomorrow. If you're interested in participating in this at a more advanced level, that's great. Give me a call. And we'll take it from there. But for tonight, there's really nothing to respond to. So we didn't schedule a question and answer period in the interest of time, because we have a lot to cover and there's a very robust presentation for you to see. But like I said, if you're left with some questions at the end of it, by all means, contact my office tomorrow, either by phone or by email, and I'll be glad to talk you through it. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to one of the principals from Fern Hill Development, Mr. Nick Anderson. Nick, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alderman. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, great. So let's go to the agenda first, the next slide. So this is quickly, we'll kind of jump right into it, but this is kind of the agenda for the call today. So we'll introduce the project team. We'll go through the sites for discussion that are kind of part of the assembly of owners and properties in the neighborhood. We'll introduce the design team working on it and outline our community engagement process. So first of all, good evening to everyone, and I want to thank everyone for making the time to join tonight. Alderman Hopkins, thank you and your staff for coordinating this opportunity to engage with the community. I have the pleasure to represent the ownership group on the call tonight, and this is a partnership between Fern Hill and the Moody Church, as the Alderman outlined. A brief background on the team. Again, I'm Nick Anderson. Fern Hill was founded 3 years ago. It's led by its two partners, myself and Mike Elch, who you'll hear from later. And our team hopes to be meeting with you all in person over the next coming weeks and months, and we're very much looking forward to that. For the Moody Church, I think their presence in the community may speak for itself, as they have been a century-long presence and stability in this community. And they've called Old Town home to their historic and beautiful sanctuary since 1925. So for the Moody Church, just kind of an additional note on them, their impact in the community goes beyond just holding services for their over 2,000 members in the community. For example, the By the Hand Club is one of the most impactful local programs for youth support, starting in nearby Cabrini Green over 20 years ago, and today serving 1,500 Chicago kids each year. And they're expanding these types of efforts with programs like the Jailhouse Ministry and Naomi's House. And while Old Town, may be home base for them, we're grateful for their impact across our city, and encourage you all to reach out if there's interest in their group or organization. Next slide. So now we'll quickly go over the sites that are kind of part of this opportunity that the Alderman outlined to engage with you all. I think we're all familiar probably with the maps of Chicago, but I think that the takeaway here of this map is what we're trying to illustrate is this is going to be a conversation more about a collection of properties and a neighborhood as a whole. And that neighborhood today is made up by some very significant and well-established existing contributors to the culture and the community of this neighborhood. And again, it's a very exciting opportunity. Here is a site map. Every parcel you see here in light red is what we'd like to bring to the community together for discussion and gather your feedback over the coming months. For orientation, we are looking from Lake Michigan, above, hovering above Lincoln Park, with north to the lower right and downtown to the upper left. Some of the properties that our group at Fern Hill owns and controls includes the BP gas station on Clark and LaSalle, the Shell gas station on North Avenue, as well the parking lot at North and LaSalle, which is owned and operated by the Moody Church today, and as well the former Treasure Island retail space on Wells Street, among others. So, we've asked ourselves as owners, how do we, take this disjointed collection of separate parcels and transition these sites to a more cohesive and inclusive vision for the community as a whole. So to that question, I'm excited to hand things over to my partner, Mike Elch, who will introduce our design partner. And then later on in the presentation, he'll follow up with specifics on our community engagement. So, Mike.
Thanks, Nick. Again, I'm Mike, and it's great to be here with you all tonight. Before putting pen to paper, the Alderman really asked us to come out and engage with the community first. So we're not going to be presenting or proposing any design ideas, as the Alderman mentioned, so it's a little bit different. But we do want to take the time to introduce you to us and to our larger team before we actually come and meet with you and start to gather your thoughts. With a project of this scale and this importance, it's allowed us to engage one of the most prolific design architects in the world. We're extremely excited to have the opportunity to work with a designer that puts an emphasis on place, on culture, and above all, on designing places that people want to live and spend time. So without further delay, I'm honored to introduce you all to Sir David Adjaye.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be presenting ourselves to you. Adjay Associates is a company that was founded in 2000 and now operates on 3 continents. Here in the US, in New York, we have our base in New York and London for our European work, and in Accra for the work that we're doing on the continent. Next. Just for those of you who can't see that myself, the team is led by me. I'm the design vision behind a very extensive team of several hundred people across those 3 different sort of sites that I've just mentioned. Mark McQuaid on the left is my associate principal. Kamal, who's going to be leading this project, is my associate also in New York, and Kirsten, who's head of interiors, will also be the sort of an active member that you will see. The 4 of us will really be the front face of this project moving forward, and we're really excited about the opportunity. Next. Adjay Associates has been working since 2000, as I said, and we work on all 3 continents, and we are very much invested in this idea of really thinking about placemaking. Most of the work has been about working in cultural and community assets and developing community infrastructure and programs that really benefit the immediate sort of communities, but also wider audiences. We've also started to work on development work in New York and in London and also on the continent, where we're starting to look at also how in the private sector we can also bring some of the lessons that we've learned in our public sector projects into enriching and creating meaningful places for the communities and the projects that we're doing. Next. A project that you might know is a project that I was the design lead on. Adjay Associates was the design lead on, which is the National Museum of African American History and Culture on the Washington Mall, just behind the White House and next to Washington's monument. This is a very important project that was a 10-year project that we, myself and my team, won the competition to develop this important cultural infrastructure, and worked with the landscaping team to develop a 5-acre landscape park that fits into the mall, but also fits into this particular junction of the mall grounds and its connections to the historic and adjacent properties, but also creating a distinct destination that really speaks to the narrative of this museum. Next. We're at the moment engaged working on a very large cultural project in the continent of Africa in Ghana, creating a national cathedral, but also a very large public park right in the center of the city that will be a great asset for the capital city, which doesn't have a cathedral, and the communities in the city. Next. We also work not just at large scale, but also very intimate scales. This is one of the projects we did in DC whilst we were working on the National Museum, which is a small community library where we looked at spaces for children to play, looking at a sort of delight of using the sort of small budget that we had to create a very rich space for library and lifelong learning in the community, which is what these libraries are, this Rethinking Libraries were in Washington. Next. And then we're just completing our first tower in New York. It's called 130 William. It's downtown. And this is really looking at making spaces where inside and outside spaces, bringing biophilic nature into the luxury development, creating logiers, creating spaces of wellness and well-being, and talking about creating signature destination developments that are not just good for the residents, but also good for the assets that they offer the community, creating parks, creating assets that really, benefit both sides. Next. We also work on large landscape projects. This is a project we did in New Orleans to create a new waterfront park with our partners on the Mississippi, really connecting the city back to the water and creating bridges and infrastructure that went over the existing rail lines, which had to stay, but we wanted to connect and bring nature right to the waterfront. This is one of those projects we're really proud of. And then really talking about the sites that have just been discussed by Nick and Mike. Old Town for me and my team, when we visited, and we know Chicago very well, and we're big fans of this city, which has this extraordinary heritage. and lineage in architecture, being really one of the kind of first sort of modern cities, but one which also has this extraordinary heritage of architecture. Old Town has that, the sort of roots of that, this beautiful 2, 3-story, 4-story architecture, Victorian sort of architecture, which is really a signature of the quality of that part of the city and why it's so distinct. Next. The wonderful institutions that are there, the Moody, of course, our clients that we're working with, Second City Comedy Club, all the cultural sort of infrastructure and the parks, and just the ability to create almost as it were a destination within the city in itself. You know, the Old Town is a place to visit and be in, and we really recognize that and really are excited by that and inspired by it. Next. This is just looking at the sort of Victorian architecture, the way in which turrets and finials and cones and domes are all part of the kind of a beautiful mosaic of the way in which Old Town articulates its corners, its junctions, and how nature is always being woven into pocket parks and side passages, and how there's a kind of very strong relationship to nature that is in the pride in which gardens and homes are kind of really sort of entwined in a way that's very, very special. Next. And this is just looking at more of those details of the city, looking at its history and looking at it as it is now, looking at Lincoln Park, looking at the kind of eclectic styles that really makes the richness of the city. This is something that's been very inspiring to us as we've already started to think about what could be the possibilities of this site. Next. And of course, we can't really talk about the site without really talking about the great sort of architecture of the Moody Church, this beautiful, handsome red brick architecture, which is a sort of signature of Old Town. I think this red brick and these beautiful arches, these Victorian arches, that talks about a kind of tradition and a craft of architecture that we think is very, very inspiring and something that really is a real signature of the community and of the neighborhood. Next. And just looking at how that is, you know, replicated and spills into Art Deco styles and modernist styles, still picking up from this Victorian architecture, creating even neoclassical templates, which all sort of add to the kind of rich quality of Old Town. Next. And of course, Old Town is part of this incredible city called Chicago and its incredible skyline and its relationship to the water. And we're deeply inspired by this incredible city and the ability to be able to work in Old Town, which is with its rich heritage, and to really understand it and in its context and its neighborhood, but also to rake a development that really will be also a signature development in the city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, David. That was great.
Thank you.
So now we're going to walk through some more details about the community engagement process and outline some of the different ways that you have to engage with us and to provide us with feedback, and also provide a timeline of what you can expect in the coming weeks and months. To start, we're really excited to use this new online platform that Alderman Hopkins alluded to in the introduction. It's going to give you an opportunity to engage with us in a new way and hopefully in closer to real time. And I'll describe that in detail here shortly. In addition to the platform, we'll be holding more traditional, smaller outreach meetings with nearby condo associations, neighborhood stakeholders, and community groups. And we're currently working with the Alderman's office on identifying that list, and we'll be reaching out in the coming weeks to set up those meetings. And then we'd also like to facilitate some smaller, more informal gatherings here in the community. We know that there are many different aspects to the sites that we've laid out in front of you now, and we anticipate a lot of very specific feedback. So we want to make sure we're fostering that and gathering that as we move along. The website that we'll be launching in October, as I mentioned, will allow you to engage with us directly, and it is a platform we'll be using. And it's going to have things like an interactive map that will allow you to create tags on different parcels, provide your feedback for that piece. It will be made in public. People will be able to build off of different suggestions together. We're also going to have a series of questions and prompts so you can provide direct feedback to us, and an ability to reach out directly to our team if you don't want to make a comment in public. So we hope this does open up a whole new way to talk about a project and engage with the community. And we're very excited to see the results of that. And just as a timeline here of what you can expect in the coming weeks and months, we have our meeting today, and we'll be launching this website, as I mentioned, in the next few weeks. And then, after that, we'll spend the remainder of the year really holding these smaller meetings that I outlined with the community and stakeholders. And then hopefully that will help inform our design, and we'll have a presentation, an actual design presentation to make to you early 2022. So before I turn it back over to the Alderman to close, Nick and I just want to thank everybody who joined us tonight for your time. And we want to let you know that until the website is launched, you can reach out to us at any time at oldtown@fernhillcompany.com. And thank you to David and everybody who joined us tonight. Alderman, thank you. Thank you for setting this up.
Thanks to the Fern Hill team. Alderman Hopkins seems to be having maybe a technical problem. So, Alderman, are you here?
I am. Let me
There.
my mic back up.
All right.
There we go. Okay, back on the air. Oh, wait, I got feedback now. Okay, well, I hope that this has piqued your interest. I'm sure it has. There's probably some questions that you have. As I said at the beginning of the meeting, please call my office or send us an email if you want to be a little bit more involved and if you'd like to play a role in this. I would welcome that. I think what we have here is an opportunity to do something very good for the city. But that will only happen if the community can accept what is ultimately put before you at the end of this design process. So as the alderman of this area, I need you. I can't do this alone. So I welcome your involvement and I look forward to a very robust interactive dialogue. And I'm particularly excited about the interactive tool that you heard about tonight. I think it's going to make my job as alderman much easier. And it'll give you a way to play a more active role in this. So thank you, gentlemen, for an outstanding presentation. Stay tuned. Part 2 is yet to come, but I think we're off to a pretty good start here. So with that, I will leave you and click on the button here. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight, and we'll see you soon.